This is the CBC Morning Report for today, Wednesday, August 23rd. I'm Tisha Hines. Good morning. In our top story, Barbados track star Sade Williams will be going for gold today at the World Athletics Championships in Budapest, when she lines up in the final of the women's 400 meters. Williams, who won bronze at last year's World Championship in Eugene, is a favorite for a medal. But can that medal be gold? Joining us live on the Morning Report to look at that possibility is track and field analyst Dennis Saline. Good morning to you, Dennis.
Good morning, Tisha.
Good morning indeed. Good to have you with us. Thanks for your time this morning. Now, firstly, how likely is it for Sade to medal in the 400 meters today?
Well, it's very, very likely. It's a great prospect for her to get a medal today. I think that this is a great chance for the whole of Barbados, and for women's sport in Barbados, it would be a pinnacle.
Who are the main quarter milers in the race that she'll have to maybe contend with as she makes her way to the finish line?
Well, in lane number 7 will be Marlene Paulino, which is the favorite, and lane 6 is Natalia Kelsmart from Poland. Those are her two main contenders.
Now, we know that she defeated Paulino of the Dominican Republic on the big stage. So what type of strategy do you think she'll have to use to beat her rival today?
I think basically she has to get out well, let her speed take her down the back stretch, and try to take Paulino out of her comfort zone today. The transition from the curve, it has to be on point to make that transition and to go for the goal.
Now, we know that she's already run a national record in the semifinals, so kudos to her, that of 49.58. Will she have to better that personal best time, to your mind, in order to be on that podium?
Yes, she sure will have to, because the semifinals, you can see she did it with a matter of ease, and she was very, very comfortable, so she has a lot more in the tank.
All right, and finally, what's the order you believe the runners will finish in today? Maybe your top 3?
Well, my top 3 is still Sade, Marlene Paulino, and Kelsmart, but it can go either way, because you can't say, oh, she's going to win. We got to hope that she have a great race, but I think she has a very good chance. So that is my top 3.
In terms of training and doing better and improving on oneself, we also saw quite an upset to certainly the Jamaican team earlier a few days ago, when we saw a big win for the American over the Jamaican favorites, and coming from a position where just a few months ago, she came last in a race of sorts after being disqualified from the big stage and so on. So in terms of what has to go in to be able to better that, what are athletes doing at crunch time, which is when it really matters?
Well, when it really matters, you basically you peak at the right time. The athletes try to peak at the right time. Some people have to peak twice because their national championships are very rough. But for somebody like Sade now, she only has to peak once. So she basically will have a greater chance at performing very well. But the Americans, I think Shericka Jackson made a big mistake in the final of the 100 meters. I think she refused to push at the end of the race because she thought she was ahead of Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price, but on the outside was Sha'Carri Richardson, who finished really, really quickly, and she stole the gold medal.
Well, what's your assessment of that semi-final with Sade Williams? Looking on to that semi-final, somehow a lot of people didn't think that Sade was all in as yet.
Well, Sade, from the first round, you can see Sade was in great shape from the first round, because when she said she's faster. This is a different Sade Williams from last year. She's faster, and she's actually stronger than she was last year. In the first round, she came off the curve to home straight. She was like 40 meters clear of the rest of the field. She had to ease down 3 times and actually walk past the finish line. In the semi-final, I think she was running under instructions, meaning to be in the first 2 and just qualify. It's just that she got the national record because she was doing so well. She's such in great shape, but I think something big is going to come. Once she runs the race that she's supposed to, something big is going to come today.
In addition to being in great physical shape, being in shape mentally is very important. And I know at this stage there are a lot of mind games that maybe some of the other more popular athletes play as well. What's going through the athlete's head at a time like this when they're preparing for something so major?
Well, focus on what you're doing. Focus on your lane. It's just remembering what your coach said to you. It's called race, especially the 400 meters, is a race plan and a race model. So all you have to do before the race, go through your check zone and try to run the race as best as you could.
For Sade to medal today, maybe a gold is what I would imagine she's hoping for. She already has a bronze medal. You know, what would that mean for her career going forward? Well,
not just her career, the entire of Barbados. She will be the first woman world champion on the island. So this is a very, very outstanding, would be a very outstanding day for the whole of Barbados.
All right, well, I want to thank you so much, Mr. Dennis Aline, track and field analyst, for sharing with us today as we look forward to that big women's 400 final set for 3:35 this afternoon. Remember, it will be live on MCTV's USA channel 806. Thanks so much for your time today. We'll have more on the World Athletics Championships later during sports. Coming up on the CBC Morning Report, Japan set to dump radioactive water in the sea from tomorrow.
For the past 19 years, QFM has been sharing with you, learning from you, and together building a community for all mature audiences. That's why we say Q is good for you. To our Q family, we say thank you for staying connected to Q 100.7 FM. QFM is a station of the Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation. CBC, celebrating 60, connecting Barbadian communities.
While you go about your business, we go about our business, and that is gathering the news. Stay up to date at CBC News Barbados on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Get news update on radio throughout the day. And join us for the CBC News Night at 7 every night. CBC News team is on the job and bringing you the news.
There is a saying, you can find a Bajan anywhere. Are you a Bajan living abroad? Or do you know of one who has migrated to another country? Well, we at Mornin Barbados would love to have you or them on our Bajan Afar segment. Share your amazing stories, experiences, and how you have adapted.
The first codependents indicted alongside former U.S. President Donald Trump this month over a campaign to overturn the 2020 United States election results in Georgia have surrendered at a jail in Atlanta.
They include Donald Trump's former lawyer, John Eastman, and bail bondsman Scott Hall. The former U.S. president says he's going to surrender to authorities on Thursday. Well, for more on this, we're going to go to Alan Fisher, who's at the courthouse in Atlanta. Tell us more about the two men who've handed themselves in, Alan.
2 down, 17 to go. The first two to be processed, Scott Hall, who is a bail bondsman, but he was in Coffee County in Georgia after the presidential election, and there he was involved in a breach of the voting machines, and that's why he's on the indictment. And then there's John Easton, constitutional lawyer who spent a lot of time in the Oval Office after the election, telling Donald Trump that he could get Mike Pence to overturn the result when it went for confirmation by Congress. Of course, that proved to be absolutely false. But part of that plan, of course, was overturning the result in Georgia. Both men have been released on bail after being processed in the jail, and they have now posted bail so that they'll wait for the date of their indictment. John Easton's lawyer saying after the case that he was absolutely pleased that he gave the advice that he gave to Donald Trump. He was pleased to act for him. There's also been another legal development today. Jeffrey Clark and David Schiffer, who are two people who are on the indictment, they have asked a court to move their case to a federal court. Now, Mark Meadows, who was Donald Trump's chief of staff, has also asked to do that. But Schiffer and Clark have asked the court to make a decision on that by 5 o'clock today. Now, Clark is probably the one most likely to be able to get that because he was a Department of Justice official. So he's saying he was acting in the capacity of his job. David Schiffer was the chairman of the Republican Party here in Atlanta. But I've been speaking to a legal expert in the last hour, and he said what they're asking for is to say, look, we were acting on the direction of the president, therefore the state courts can't touch us for that. That's why this has got to go to a federal court. My legal expert says that's hard to prove. If you were doing your job, that's fine, but your job isn't trying to overturn a presidential election, so that might well get kicked out. But they're saying that they would like to see all proceedings against them stopped so that they don't show up by lunchtime on Friday when the people have to make their appearance in the jail, then no arrest warrants will be issued. Nothing has at the moment, but they're clearly intending not to show up if they can get this referred to a federal court. All pretty complicated, but we know these legal manoeuvres would take place before any of them appeared in court behind me.
Japan will start releasing more than 1 million metric tons of treated radioactive water from the devastated Fukushima nuclear power plant from tomorrow, despite concerns among neighboring countries and local fishing communities.
A highly contentious plan is underway in Japan. Prime Minister Fumio Kishida says treated radioactive wastewater from the Fukushima nuclear plant could start to be released into the Pacific Ocean on Thursday.
The government will take responsibility until the disposal of treated water is completed, even if it takes several decades in order to safely complete the decommissioning and release of the water.
The decision comes after Kishida met executives from the Tokyo Electric Power Company, also known as TEPCO, on Sunday. They reassured him about the safety of the water discharge after most radioactive elements have been removed. The TEPCO plan has been approved by the UN nuclear watchdog. The International Atomic Energy Agency says it complies with global safety standards. Around 1,300,000 tons of stored water is due to go into the Pacific over several decades. The water was used to cool the Daiichi nuclear reactors when they started to melt down following the devastating earthquake and tsunami 12 years ago. But engineers have run out of space to store the wastewater, hindering the decommissioning of the power station.
Kishida faces strong opposition within the country. Fukushima fishermen who are still recovering after the 2011 triple disaster fear potential reputational damage. Environment activists say TEPCO's data is insufficient and the treated radioactive wastewater could harm marine life and the entire population.
Dozens of protesters also made their feelings known outside the Prime Minister's office.
The world's oceans are connected, and the government is talking about pouring this water into them over the span of 30 to 40 years. We don't know how this will affect us in the future. And Japan says that the plan is necessary because it's run out of space. I can't forgive Japan for this.
China, South Korea, and Pacific Island nations are also against the Japanese plan.
This blatantly transfers the risk of nuclear contamination to the whole world, which is an extremely selfish and irresponsible move.
Despite the controversy, the Japanese government is pressing on. It's allocated $342 million to compensate Japanese fishermen for any financial damage caused to their livelihoods.
Well, coming up today on Morning Barbados, while we give you that preview of what's coming up at 6:30, we're going to be looking at sports as a change agent for helping you to change your children or for children to do better. We're also going to be sharing a lot more with you from the Human Resources Management Association of Barbados. We're going to have a great send-off for the young people who are heading off to Carifta, and a little later in the show, we'll be talking about intimacy. That's all coming up today on Morning Barbados. But next, we have more news, sports, and weather. So stay with us.
A highly contentious plan is
Enjoy movies, soaps, drama, comedy, inspiration, education, music, and more. You get it all when you get MCTV, because MCTV gives you more.
Some ask, what makes Barbados so special? We at Mornin Barbados say it's you, our exceptional youth. You are talented, resilient, and inspirational. You are the epitome of the Barbadian spirit, testing the boundaries of your creativity. If you are an entrepreneur, artist, baker, designer, author, or have done anything you think should be highlighted, email us at morninbarbados@cbc.bb. Let us show the world our exceptional Bajan youth.
Books open your heart.
There's a plea for developers to consult the drainage unit when undertaking construction projects. It comes amid concern about recent flooding across Barbados and the threat of heavy rainfall expected at this time of year. Senior Technical Officer with the Drainage Unit, Charles Yearwood, believes there's a price to pay for progress and not enough thought is given to the impact of building on runoff from heavy rains.
Start to considering paving your yard. So many persons will have a lawn. It may be costly to control the lawn and to pave the area. You seal in the pores of the land, and what retain in some developments, you've got as much as 70% hardcover area. Hardcover being galvanized, concrete, asphalt. 30% now take the water that the land before development is asked to take. You've contributed in some way to the rate at which runoff or flood waters go off.
The drainage official also says adjustments are on the cards for the building policy, but indiscriminate dumping remains a problem for the unit.
Indiscriminate dumping. Persons dump cars, fridges, consumable items in watercourses. And oftentimes they also move towards the culverts and then the water have to come over the road. These are things that we observe and we ask persons to desist from doing. And if you see it happening in your area, do call the Drainage Division 536-0059 and alert us so we can be proactive in moving these obstructions.
Barbados could become a rice-producing country in 3 years. The commodity is being grown successfully at Ferry Valley in Christchurch. CBC's Trevor Thorpe was there.
Upland rice, a hybrid of 20 different rice species tested, has responded well to local conditions. Chinese agronomist Wang Jiang says they have already reaped 58.62 kilograms from the 78 square meters under cultivation, and based on figures from the United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization, the yield is good for commercial production.
Actually, we hope as soon as quickly. We do everything. First, we need to choose a good variety for the local, and we try to development. Maybe we need to spend 2 or 3 years and some more.
He acknowledges there's a water scarcity issue in Barbados. However, he notes after 112 days and testing of upland rice, the project is poised for further development.
This project, based off China, Hunan province and Barbados, we just focus the vegetables. During in the time, we find this land is good for the upland rice, so we do some experiment. And past the 112 days, of course, we harvest the upland rice, and I think it's successful.
The agronomist has also revealed they are looking at opportunities for other crops such as eggplant, pumpkin, sweet melons, radish and long beans.
This project will just for 1 year, and we hope in the future we can find some more opportunities for Barbados about the agriculture, forecast the upland rice.
The rice project is an initiative between the government of China and the Hunan province and the government of Barbados. Trevor Thorpe, CBC News.
In Bermuda, money laundering charges against government MP and former cabinet minister Zane Da Silva have been dropped. The Director of Public Prosecutions opted not to proceed with the case against the MP, which concerned an alleged connection to the loss of nearly $800,000 of taxpayer money. We have a report from Bermuda Broadcasting.
The charge was in connection with the Savvy recording studio scandal, which saw up to $800,000 of taxpayer money lost to music promoter William Anthony Blakey. According to a statement from his lawyer, Mr. Da Silva had loaned his friend Kevin Smith $200,000, some of which had been invested in what turned out to be a spurious project advanced by Blakey. The Director of Public Prosecutions said they decided it was no longer in the public interest to prosecute Mr. Da Silva, as some of the money Blakey allegedly obtained by deception from the government of Bermuda has been recovered. Outside court today, Mr. Da Silva said he was pleased with the outcome.
I chased Blakey. Blakey paid half of that sum, and that sum has been given back.
Senior Crown Counsel Alan Richards told the court the move does not impact the DPP's decision to prosecute Blakey, and an extradition order from the U.S. continues to be sought. Mr. Da Silva said he was unclear about how the defendant had been able to obtain the entire loan up front.
You have to speak to Cabinet about that. I was not in Cabinet at the time, and Cabinet apparently gave him the funds.
Blakey's company, Savvy Entertainment, borrowed funds from the government to open a recording studio in Bermuda. He was charged in magistrate's court last October with failing to repay the loan. Late last year, prosecutors claimed Mr. Da Silva entered into or became concerned in an arrangement he knew or suspected of facilitating the use or control of criminal property by or on behalf of William Anthony Blakey.
I think he may have received millions of dollars through this scheme that he had going. Well, I know from listening to the Crown today, they plan on trying to recover the missing funds, yes.
The Southampton East MP said his accounts and credit cards had been closed by the Bank of Butterfield, a decision he believed was incorrect as he had not been found guilty in court. Today, Mr. Da Silva said he was feeling relieved the charges were behind him.
A lot of turmoil for my family and I, and I wouldn't want anyone to have to go through what we went through. It's nothing worse than being accused of something that you know you absolutely had nothing to do with.
Army commandos using helicopters, a makeshift chairlift, and local expertise have rescued 8 people from a broken cable car as it dangled hundreds of meters above a canyon in remote, mountainous part of Pakistan.
Taking a leap at nearly 300 meters above the ground. This child and 7 others spent hours dangling between 2 mountains in a damaged cable car. Pakistan Special Forces eventually lifting some of those stranded in the cart, hanging by only one cable to safety. But it was an operation complicated by strong winds in the valley, with the forces generated by the rotor blades of the helicopter posing a danger to the unstable cart. A stranded 20-year-old, using what little battery he had on his cell phone, made an appeal to a local media channel as they hung in the air.
I don't know how to make this request, but it's a matter of human lives here. The authorities should rescue all of us as soon as possible.
Then darkness fell. Engineers were called in to assist in the rescue operation from the ground.
Right now we are installing another cable so that through another makeshift trolley we can make an access to the ones who are already trapped there and get them out.
Authorities explain they initially had contact with one of the stranded people who has since been rescued.
One of the guys in the trolley, he has got a phone, but so far as by now, what can I understand is that his battery has run out and the communication is no more with the guy who was inside the trolley before this.
Despite the challenging terrain, rescuers worked throughout the night to bring everyone to safety.
Time to take a look now at sports. 3 Caribbean athletes have made it to the final of the men's 400 meters at the World Athletics Championships in Budapest. Running in the semifinals yesterday, Jamaican Antonio Watson won Heat 1 in 44.13 seconds.
Watch Van Niekerk, second to right in that green of South Africa. He has a wonderful ability to hold his form and his stride length down the home straight. He's closing up on Molnar already to left of picture. Good aggressive running too from both Doreen Richards in lane 4 and Antonio Watson in the yellow of the Jamaica in 5. They've really blasted the first 250. Norwood's got a little bit of work to do on paper. Of course, Van Niekerk is running blind. He doesn't know what's going on inside him. They're coming to the straight now, and it is Watson of Jamaica who leads in the yellow. Van Niekerk's got some work to do. Is he going to catch Richards? It's only the first 2 who go through by right, but look at Norwood. The American has blasted through, and Van Niekerk third and out of an automatic qualifying spot.
Now, Kirani James of Grenada then finished second in Heat 2 in 44.58 behind Matthew Hudson Smith of Great Britain.
Set.
Only the top 2 guaranteed a place in the final. James with a strong start, as you'd expect. Hudson Smith trying to close the gap on Ingvaldsen, the Norwegian who blasted out of the blocks for a national record, running a more composed, controlled race this time. Hudson Smith coming up onto the Norwegian shoulder, but Kirani James looks really smooth here. No move yet from Bonaventure, who's got to close the gap. Hudson Smith up on Kirani James at the moment. These two in the automatic spots at the moment. James is beginning to rock and roll a little bit. Sato's closing, so too Ingvaldsen. Hudson Smith and James just 44.26.
In the third semi-final, Jamaica's Sean Bailey was second on 44.94 seconds behind American Quincy Hall. In that race, Olympic champion and race favorite Stephen Gardner of the Bahamas pulled up injured and failed to progress to the final. Gardner, the fastest in the world this year, was well placed coming off the final bend but stopped, grimacing in pain, clutching the back of his leg.
Set.
Well, we know the track is fast. We know it's a beautiful warm night here in Budapest, 26 degrees centigrade. And certainly Gardner in that lovely turquoise vest of the Bahamas has gone off quickly. Oh, and an athlete's down, and it's Ndori. What a shame for the young Botswanan. As Gardner eases past at 200 metres the vest of Quincy Hall of the USA. Good running in that yellow vest for Sean Bailey, the Jamaican, in lane 4. They come round into the straight, also going one Nene, the South African, in lane 3. Oh, and Gardner's gone! Gardner's gone! Oh my word, 2 down, the rest drive on. Quincy Hall for the USA, third in their championships, head rocking from side to side, takes this one, and the Jamaican goes through as well. Sean Bailey makes it through 44.43 for Quincy Hall.
Well, that's a tough one. The men's 400 meters final is set for tomorrow. Meanwhile, this afternoon, top Bajan athlete Shade Williams is set to run in the women's 400 final at 3:35 p.m. Barbados time. It will be live right here on MCTV's USA Channel 806 with the session starting from 1:30 p.m. It's time now to take a look at the weather. The barometric pressure stands at 1009.9 millibars, air temperature 27.3 degrees Celsius, already very warm outside. The relative humidity stands at 89%, and the winds are blowing out of the east-southeast at 15 kilometers per hour. It's partly cloudy outside. Sea conditions, moderate in open water with northerly swells ranging from 1.5 to 2 meters. And here's a look at how your tides roll in for today. A general look at the forecast for Barbados for today. Sunny with cloudy periods with brief isolated light showers and periods of rain. As we move into the evening, you can expect much of the same, cloudy with clear periods with the occasional brief isolated light showers and periods of rain as well. So plan accordingly. That's the CBC Morning Report. Our next newscast is Newsday at 12 noon on TV8, followed by The World at 1 on our radio network of stations, 100.7 FM, 98.1 The One, and 94.7 FM. Thanks for viewing. Morning Barbados is next.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up. Good morning. Good morning, Barbados. Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Morning, Barbados. Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Morning, Barbados. Good morning. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Morning to you.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is already Wednesday, August 23rd. So good to have you with us for today's presentation of Morning Barbados. I'm Tisha Hines, and I'll be here with you until 8 o'clock this morning. So the eyes of the world are on sport, and so too will the eyes of Morning Barbados. Today we're talking a lot about sport and sharing a lot with you, and we certainly hope that we will be able to put you in that type of mindset, whether you have little ones who are involved in sport or who might get involved in sport. We're going to be sharing all this coming up today with our very own Sade Williams competing in the 400 meters women's final today, and then having an almost all Caribbean cast to compete in the men's final tomorrow. Certainly feels good for us as a region. Now we are also sending off our team who will be heading off to Carifta for the triathlon and the aquathlon, and we certainly look forward to doing the double for Barbados as well as they come home with some big goals from those particular events, and they're going to be heading off soon. We'll tell you a little bit more about that. We're also going to look back at something very important that we shared with the Human Resources Management Association of Barbados, and it was a very interesting discussion on fair dismissal under the Employment Rights Act. We felt it necessary to revisit that interview, so we're going to share that with you a little bit later as we're hearing a whole lot more from the Minister of Labour talking about some best practice that he would like to see some of the businesses here in Barbados move a little forward, with rather. Now, a very interesting discussion we're going to have a little later in the show is one on intimacy. Apparently, there's an Intimacy Day challenge. So we have Kamisha King, who will be coming through. She's a strategist and life purpose coach, and she's going to be talking to us about that. She also wrote a book called 7 Dates of Intimacy, a guide to self-discovery, and she is going to be exploring that a whole lot more with us. So that's all coming up today on Morning Barbados. But like I told you, there's a heavy focus today on, sport. So we had to get some experts in here to talk to us about what we can expect. And for that reason, we have some gentlemen who are here with us today. Help me welcome Sade Desir. We also have Nevik Danoon and Lincoln Augustus. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good to have you with us. I struggled through those names just a little bit, but certainly good to have all of you with us. Now, we're looking at sports as a change agent to help steer young people away from violence in the Caribbean. There's no better time to have that discussion than now, where we're seeing our athletes really soar. They're on stage, so to speak, on the world stage. So I'm going to start with you, Mr. Danoon. Talk to me about what you think sports can do to help move our young people away from violence and violent behavior and gangs and things of that nature.
Well, first of all, I'm grateful and thankful to be here. And being in Barbados, this is about my 10th time. Also being a former national player, Trinidad and Tobago, and seeing what sports did for me, especially too, I am just trying to put back, and through the Caribbean Children Charity Shield Soccer Classic from 2013, Mr. Hamilton Lashley came to Barbados on a tourism drive, and it's from there then that I met him, and we were able to put this program together, because I'm from Mova Lavantil, and in Mova Lavantil, sports and culture is the Habinga then to change.
Did you say Habinga?
Yes. Yes, it is, okay. Because it is the way that we direct the youth out of poverty to stardom. Most, if not nearly all, the top players that come out from Mova Lavantil has gone through that poverty line, and now many of them are striving in excellence. And through that, some of them have been given scholarships, and so that sporting fraternity that is needed, it is a necessity to ensure that the youths, you know, with these guns and whatever they have, the distractions, sports, especially football, has been the changer. And it has changed even me, and even up now, some of the other youngsters have something to look forward to, say, well, yes, I want to be an Evigdy Noon, I want to be a Dennis Lawrence, I want to be, you know. So the sports in itself is the way forward out of crime and criminality and gun violence and all these other things.
Well, your thoughts, Mr. Augustus?
Yes, well, the sports in our country there, well, the youth need a lot more help and focus in terms of their development. Well, I'm a retired police officer. I've been in the police service for 31 years, and I've been involved in youth development since I was age 19. I took control of my sports and cultural club, Creek Sports and Cultural Club in Rima. And we have a lot of the youth there that really face some challenges in terms of getting their way out and forward in the sport itself, with that assistance that they need to get forward. Because we don't get much sponsorship in that area there, where we need the people in public that could help these children and them, that they don't really come forward to give them that assistance that they need. So we now do a lot of fundraisers and things to try to get these youths forward. In my club there, I focus on, we have a motto where we say books and ball. So we try to get them to focus on their schoolwork and also to play the sport, because that is the avenue that they can get their way out. If they don't make it in the sport, well, with the books, they could get their way forward in a career. Because with me, I have a lot of guys that pass through my club that are soldiers. A lot of them are police officers. We have a couple that are teachers. We have one that is a pilot. And they continue to grow. And we're trying to develop a little mentorship program now with these guys that has moved forward. Later come back and do something with the younger ones that we have in our club right now. But we need that help and that push from the government as well. We need them to get a little more involved in that development for those youths to go forward. Because as you say with the gangs, we really have a lot of them outside there just waiting for these youths who has nothing to do, those who are just lingering on the streets, to tip in and get them into, well, I just call them a gun sack. They put a gun in their hands to go and rob people and stuff like that. But we do that, and I have them in my club from the ages of 4 straight up to seniors. And we have been doing very well with these youths thus far.
All right, well, that's excellent. And of course, you're talking about the Caribbean Children's Charity Shield football competition that's coming up as well. So, you know, we've seen that in here in Barbados, where, you know, there is evidence to show, and I've interviewed people who have put on football tournaments where they've actually seen a curb in the level of gunplay or violence and things like that in communities based on the fact that the tournaments were going on. So I think there's evidence to show, and I mean, you know, there's evidence to show that it really works. You know, your initial thoughts, Mr. Desir.
Well, being an educator for the past 20 years, previously taught at a co-ed school in the south of the island where I'm from, I've seen basically how sports on a whole, not just football, but sports on a whole can breed discipline, can breed perseverance in these marginalized youths. And then again, the past 10 years now in the north, teaching at the all-girls school, the same thing, same principle. When I entered the school for the first time, the principal gave me a set of, I'll not say delinquent, but perceived.
The ones that they put the
They
label
couldn't deal
on.
with, right? They couldn't deal with basically, and I started a football program. And at that time, I was the vice president of the St. Lucia Football Association, responsible for women's development. And for that post, I initiated the school's female football. And I would say about 400 girls started playing football. But I will talk specifically about my school, which is a convent. These girls we were labeled delinquent. Football really changed their lives. Girls that could not even kick a ball the following year, second year of the tournament, it really changed their lives. Some of them make the national teams, some of them travel to Suriname, some of them travel to Dominican Republic, and some of them actually went on to get scholarships. So it's really changed their lives, and I believe it was through, if there was no intervention for sports, we would have lost these girls to something else. But on a whole, living in the area called Gozile, which is a district, one of the biggest districts in St. Lucia, you find that football is the number one sport in this community. And it is through football a number of persons, a number of youths, I would say, are engaged. And that engagement leads them to be more productive citizens compared to being idle on a block, which is very easy to be in Gozile town. Okay, but through football, it keeps them disciplined. Yes, they may join certain cliques and whatnot, but in terms of crime and violence, football really curbs that. And especially when it's football, you find that the crime and violence level is very low, because most persons that may be able to commit a crime is playing football. Right, so the more football we have, and we always preach that to the ministers, the more football you have in your community, the less crime, the less chance you might get somebody going to rob somebody going to kill somebody. And looking at the violence in St. Lucia right now, we had a very bad stint of violence a couple of weeks ago in the south of the island. And I always tell people, how many of these guys were actually footballers? Very, 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 very few, based on stats, because most footballers are not involved in these things, because they are engaged, they are more disciplined, they know what they want, and a lot of them, for football, both female and male, have gone on to get scholarships in America, and a lot of them have their degrees now, and are coming back to give back in our communities and help change the whole aspect of the whole outlook, I would say, of sports in St. Lucia.
Well, no, our differences are stark at times, but our similarities are even, more obvious when we truly sit to talk about it. Because you're talking about what's happening in St. Lucia, particularly with girls in soccer and so on, football, as we call it here in the region. And I'm thinking about a program that started some years ago here in Barbados. I heard about it through Etania Wiggins, who's deeply involved, a program called Aganar that really helped young people through football and involvement with sports and so on. So, there's proof in the pudding. There's evidence to show that involvement with sport. I know there are a number of companies. You mentioned early on, Mr. Danoon, that you would like to see corporate entities play a bigger role in assisting young people, particularly from maybe inner city communities,
stigmatized and marginalized communities.
Fringe communities is what I like to call them, because a lot of people talk about what's happening in the communities, but they don't talk with any level of true knowledge of what happens in these communities. And it's important for them to have conversations with the people in communities so that they can come up with things that are fit for purpose. I'm sure you'd agree.
Yeah, most definitely. And I just want to touch with respect to the airfare, for example. I'm the president of Mova Elements Football Club, And we work hard to bring 25 people here. But a ticket is $6,000.
Wow.
From Trinidad to Barbados.
And I mean, you know, that's 6,000 TT dollars, I believe is like almost 3 to 1. So that's 2,000 Barbados dollars. Like that's too much for us. And you know, talking so much about intra-regional travel.
We celebrated 50
being
years
able to move of CARICOM.
Come years.
And you're paying $2,000 Barbados, 6,000 Trinidadian dollars.
Yes. And
for one ticket to
one
come to
ticket,
Barbados.
and we ain't talking about boarding and lodging and ground transportation and these things, right? So many of the families, dysfunctional families right now, football is the vehicle out of poverty. They cannot even afford to come up with that. So the club try to have fundraisers, and when you go and the ticket is 6,000, even some of the people who want to come on board to assist us find it ridiculous to be paying that amount of, and maybe for just a couple of days, and it's just not feasible.
Yeah.
Right? So you have many guys like, right now I left them crying home, some girls crying home because we were called to come up and play, and in this short notice, unable, and again due to the dysfunctional families, due to the situations, many single parents, so the football is a vehicle to transport them. And over the years, like I said, our club is 43 years old, and we have produced and continue to push without sponsorship, just by the grace and mercies of the Most High God. You know, and couple parents, and in our communities which have a preschool, a primary school, and a secondary school, Malik Senior Comprehensive, which is one of the football schools in Trinidad and Tobago, and now we are at the bottom scraping because many no cooperative sponsors, and you have the delinquents, and like I said, they have those, I want to say, gremlins waiting on the outside to you know, because they want fit and strong youths, and they incentivizing these youngsters now.
Yeah.
Giving them little tangibles. If you carry this here for me, I will give you this. And the young girls too, come and look nice things, bling, and then they give up the heavens, and some of them have now, you're 16, 17 years, you're pregnant, and you ain't even sure who the child father is, and these children growing up there. One situation that we had, even to get a passport where you have two parents not together, and one, they don't care about the child, and when you go to the passport office, the mother, both parents' name on the birth certificate, they're not giving you the passport, and then the other way around, a boy living by his father, taking care of him, his name not on the birth certificate, they're not giving you the passport. So we have we need a lot of social interventions from the powers that be to ensure that the kids, we also have some delinquent kids, since the pandemic, they haven't gone to school, and they just, how we calling them now, walkers and riders. So they're just walking and riding and getting themselves involved in a lot of unproductive, you know, situations. So we really like the powers that be to ensure, like in Barbados here, I see no youngsters will be walking as the government take an interest in the welfare of the kids. We need that kind of intervention, especially in Trinidad and Tobago.
All right, yes.
I just want to highlight, I heard the cries of my Trini friends here, but in St. Lucia, there is something called the National Lotteries Authority, and its mandate is actually youth and sport development, and it has a budget for that. Obviously, you need to present a proper proposal to get the funding that you need, and I must say the National Lotteries Authority has always come through for my district, which is I'm here as a district team, not a club, all right, and even for the clubs, they actually help with as much as possible to ensure that the youths are occupied, whichever programming that we want to do. Yeah. So I am hearing the cries. I don't know if in Trinidad that they have a policy where I know you do have lotteries, right? And hopefully maybe you could advocate for them to have a set budget for youth development, because gambling is a bad thing, we all know that. But if you give back some of that gambling money to basically help in communities, it goes a very, very long way. And so I just want to highlight that. And not only National Lotteries Authority, you have other corporate partners like First National also, which is a bank, actually helps my club and my district in whichever programming that we have, among other stakeholders that are around a private sector, I would say. I mean, once you have a solid program, study proposal, and you make, there's a higher chance, I would say, of you getting the funding that you need to fund your programs.
Yeah.
But again, it's all about the approach. Before you even send a proposal, I would say go to the companies, meet the director, meet the the manager, CEO, have a little chat with them before you send a proposal.
That's some of the times.
Yeah.
Because I hear what you say when sometimes sponsors are willing to sponsor who they want to sponsor.
That is true.
And,
that is
when
true.
you find these children who are on the fringes, who everybody is ready to throw to the gremlins, and who people see as and label as delinquents, is difficult sometimes to get people to get on board. It's almost like they have to take a chance on them. And that's the challenge. So let's take a little break and come on back. This conversation would far exceed the time that we have allotted to speaking, but I'm happy speaking about it, but I'm happy that we're at least able to start the conversation. So it continues after this break. And remember, you can share online as well. Those of you who are watching the stream on Facebook, feel free to share your comments or send your questions or comments to our email address. Is morningbarbados@cbc.bb, morning without the G, all right? We'll be right back.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Because you love English Premier League, MCTV has got it back. Now you can watch all the games of the English Premier League plus UEFA and NFL on MCTV. Current customers can upgrade to Max Pack Extra at just $23. Call MCTV today at 228-6288 to upgrade or come in and sign up for a new service. Football fans, let MCTV get you back in the game.
The facts say Morning Barbados reaches an audience of over 50,000 and Newsnight reaches over 56,000. It's simple. When you advertise, you're getting your message to over 50,000 of your potential customers. Make the call to CBC Sales Department today and watch your business grow. Contact us at 467-5559 or email marketing@cbc.bb.
98.1 The One is more than a station. We don't just play music, we keep your company, cheer you up, keep you informed and entertained. We are a vibe. What do you mean?
Every day we bring the party to you.
We are your #1 party station.
We love playing music for our listeners.
And we're committed to working with our clients and advertisers to make sure that you get the attention that you deserve.
98.1 The One, celebrating 18 and still your #1 party station.
From the beautiful shores of the gem of the Caribbean, Barbados.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
So welcome back. The conversation continued even though you were gone. We're going to have to do maybe a behind the scenes thing. Yes, but we have to start that conversation to bring the people online or who are viewing, in line with what we're saying. So basically we were again talking about sponsorship and making it clear that we're not necessarily condemning all sponsors, or we're not condemning sponsors at all, because we understand that corporate entities don't have a bottomless pit of money or a money tree from which to pull, but we'd like to see them diversify the offering, as in give some other young people in sports and communities, people who might not be able to put together a proposal in the standard way that you would like. How about invite them in if it's an interesting concept, because you understand that they might need that level of assistance, or direct them to an agency that can assist them in that way. Yes.
We Mobile Elements so fortunate because on the 11th of January this year, coming from saying stigmatized and marginalized, I did an article in The Guardian on the 11th of January, and we got a response from the American Embassy, where they came on board because most of my players can't even afford food. But a pair of shoes, football shoes, is $500. And a parent with 3 kids is not going to put $500 towards that. So they came on board and they assisted us with equipment a value of $65,000.
Wow.
Which was able to lift the affinity of these youngsters now with uniforms and boots, and now we are able to see a difference. Now fellas who wasn't coming practice coming on time, and the change in the attitude towards everything. And I saw a difference in all young performance, even some of the parents now who were always busy now taking time to come because they're seeing, all right, again opportunity. And I am saying that we need more people like that to come on board, and the parents, because that is one of the major area of deficiency for us right now.
For sure.
Where we have younger parents, they have kids, they might be 20 something and their kids is 11 and 12, and they unable now to maintain the balance in the home, so especially with the young boys and young girls, these teenage situations that they have to offer. So we really under that kind of, how you say under the gun right now.
Yeah.
And
literally and figuratively.
Yes, under the gun. And these, with these people offering these youngsters now tangibles, which most of the sporting organizations unable to offer, because a pair of shoes is $500.
Yeah.
And parents unable to buy. So we have a situation there.
Yeah, we our thoughts align in more ways than you know, because usually I have a specific type of pen that I absolutely love to use. And this morning I looked in my pencil case and I pulled out this pen that the U.S. Embassy gave me. You know, little things
Yes,
really make the difference.
And we check that.
And you just talked about how they assisted based on an article that you put out there.
Yes.
All right, so let's welcome Ivan into the conversation. Ivan, talk to us about the Caribbean Children's Charity Shield football competition. And I think this brings to the fore how much there are people working behind the scenes to keep things going, because at the very beginning, Mr. Danoon talked about meeting our Hamila Hamilton last years ago, and still being able to carry on with this competition.
It's nice. It's good to be here this morning.
It's good to have you.
Thank you a lot. The Hamilton Ashley Foundation formed after he decided that he would come up with politics and stuff. And he sat down one day and asked me, how could we take football to a different level in the hotspot areas? We just call them hotspot in Barbados. And we decided we will start a program and try to invite teams from overseas that is in the hotspot area, like Morval and Crete. And when we first saw it, because it's 7 years tournament now, COVID, you know, Southside Sandwich time that we would have had it, you know. And when we decided to hold in Barbados, we got a good response. So what we did, we decided that we would carry all through the Caribbean.
Nice.
And we got to thank the governments of the Caribbean, you know, for letting us come into their territory and run the tournament. And Hamilton actually greatness that people know you are. He just find ways to get the tournament going. And we have traveled to Guyana, we have traveled to St. Vincent, we have traveled to Grenada, St. Lucia, Trinidad, organize this special tournament. And when the COVID interrupt, because we want to carry it right through the Caribbean, we decided we would bring it back home. And I think what's happening mostly, I think the governments of the Caribbean got to realize, well, the governments outside the Caribbean realized, outside Barbados, realized the importance of this tournament. And this year when I come, I really a little disappointed that the government didn't really understand this tournament. You know, I think the people that in government, when it comes to sports, got to understand how much important this tournament is. You know, this tournament carry like 600 or 700 youngsters and the mother and parents to different territories. Is income to the financial income to the territories. Then we cast 600 children in there alone. And in Barbados here, I don't think that we get the support this year that we really needed, you know.
Well, let's put it in our pipes that we are going to make a move to make it even better. I hear you when you say that. And, you know, I'm sure that the powers that be will hear about your cries. Let's talk quickly about the tournament this time around.
The tournament this time around is being said. We a lot as the known say the airlift. I think there's 50 years of we celebrated CARICOM, and I think the airlift of CARICOM. When I look at it, I think ticket. When you look at a ticket, the ticket price would be about $200 to $300. The ticket itself, but when the overall taxes and different things, you know, to landing and thing, I think that's what got the tickets.
You hit the nail on the head. A lot of people don't talk about that, but a lot of the countries, a lot of the islands have a lot of prohibitive taxes.
Right, because a lot of ones is look at a ticket and they don't realize that the cost of the ticket alone is be really small. You know, but then when they got the landing, it just cost the ticket. So what we're looking at is the government to get more involved with this tournament, you know, and try like when it comes to the tournament, the kids that we got, you know, we can give a half price or don't put taxes on us, you know. And I think that would make the tournament and more teams of because like we mostly got teams from Ghana, Trinidad, Grenada, all those come to the tournament. But this year we only got St. Lucia, we only have Trinidad, you know. So a lot of teams like we have a team from Jamaica, but they come 20 people. But when they got the money coming from the north, then coming from the north, so when they got the price of the ticket to come to Barbados, it was too expensive on them. Just coming off of COVID, you know, budget, so people.
So you know, this all says it goes back to where we started, which is looking at how sport can change lives, and we're looking now at coming out of the 45th CARICOM Heads of Government meeting, which happened in Trinidad. Quite recently, in line with the 50th anniversary of CARICOM, it was decided that they're going to move toward free movement across the region, not just of skilled workers, but free movement.
Like the free movement, as you said, I love it.
Free movement, for free movement, you have to be able to move.
You
still have to be able to move.
They have to bring down the price of the tickets so that we can buy. I think we need more airlift, you know, got to get teams to be traveling and moving about the Caribbean. We small.
Yeah.
You know, you 5 million to 6 million people. But we like to do a lot of traveling.
Yeah.
We try to go more north, but I like the people to go through the Caribbean because if it's CARICOM, and this tournament really is a CARICOM tournament. Everything about the tournament is CARICOM. You know, we
for sure.
integrate all
we have CARICOM in here, St. Lucia, Barbados,
Trinidad.
Tobago.
This tournament, we're trying to leave from the front how CARICOM should go. You know, if we could bring all these things, because we are not a national organization, you know, we NGO, non-government organization, so it's very hard now to raise funds and stuff. But I feel like a tournament like this here, and the way our charter, we'll be looking like, I think someone big should come on board, you know, and try to cover, because we operate for no money, you know, and I think like, when the tournament starts, because Barbados won the tournament. You know, it's a Barbados tournament. But the governments of the other territories let us come in and we run the tournament. They don't interfere. If we ask them for, like, we may want transportation, we ask the government to provide, the territory that we're going, we ask them to provide transportation for the teams.
So you get a little more assistance in that regard.
In that regard.
I've not heard a lot from you, Mr. Augustus. I guess true in the former life, you know, kind of sit and listen more than you talk, the officer. But I saw you nodding in agreement as well.
Yeah, because this tournament is a very great initiative because it has brought a lot of the youth together in the Caribbean. That youth have a greater appreciation.
It gives them a better perspective. They see somewhere else, you know, see other
others,
people.
You know, and most of the youths and them that we have, if it wasn't for this tournament, they may not have had a passport. They may not have had an ID card, because to get a passport, you have to have your ID if you're over 16. So because a lot of these youths, they didn't have these things. It actually woke up some of the parents, because the parents is a next factor as well. Some of them need to be a little more behind their children, because we are behind them 150%, the parents need to be there too. Because as I say again, if it wasn't for this tournament, they would not have had a passport. You see the smiles on some of these children's faces just to get on a plane for the first time.
I met a young lady this year who, you know, all she kept saying is, I can't wait to get on a plane. That was her own, you know, she just wanted to be able
lifting the affinity of the youngsters.
Because mostly you travel every make a national team. You know, if you make the national team, you got opportunity to travel. But what about the other guys who won't be able to make the national team?
Yeah.
So if we could get the club teams now going, at 30 you learn to sleep away from home. You learn how to prepare your passport. You learn to take
fill
care
a form.
You know, there's a lot of things that
there's a lot of discipline that goes into it as well, you know, preparation and so on.
And so it's a learning experience. You learn how to different cultures you meet. You know, I'm a Belgian as a little boy, and I gone into St. Lucia, and I learned how St. Lucia operate at a small age.
Right, so you know about Grosillet. I'm sorry that I couldn't leave Mr. Desir on the set, but we didn't have any more room where the inn is full.
You see, this is an international tournament for, as we say, the hot spot. I like to call it the hot spot area.
I realize you like to call them the hot spot.
Right, yeah, because that's what it was named in Barbados. We got to go in the hot spot here and do this. So we go in the hot spot here. There's a tournament that we could have. How many minutes to run and thing, but I won't call the name because certain reason. But we look at this tournament into it play in all the 32 the constituencies. This thing was 32, you know,
across the island,
right? And it's semi-professional. So you get you when you go in there, you got the people that live in the area, sell food, drinks, you know. Bring income to the family, all sorts of things that made the people come out, you know, and call people say, stand aside, you know.
Man, listen,
violence,
we are totally out of time, but we could talk about this, I mean, for another...
Psychosocial development.
I mean, another hour or two, and it says that there's passion there, and I so appreciate this conversation because this is something that
it's burning. This
is something that I too am passionate about getting, especially, and people don't want to hear this, especially our young men, finding things for them to do.
Exactly.
You know, there's so many of them who they would like an opportunity.
One thing, these youths appreciate what we do for them. Because I have so many youths that pass through me that sometimes you don't remember them. No, coach, you don't remember me? I say, well, help me remember now. And he tell me, you coach me, you teach me this, you teach me X, Y, Z, and they have moved on. And
they still remember.
It feels so good when you see these guys moved on and they're not finding themselves in any trouble. So these things, it do help.
Absolutely.
So they got to help, these people got to get themselves involved.
For sure.
Ivan, get himself involved.
Listen, I'm going to have to give you your own show, man.
Well, you know, I got to say thanks to Mr. Trevor Prescott, you know.
For sure.
The minister really come on board, help us with the facilities, because we play not blaming, and he made sure he was behind Mr. Lashley 100%. I got to congratulate him for that.
Thanks to MP Prescott.
Because he realized, well, he and me is very close friends, you know. He know how me operate, and I think we got to give kudos to Mr. Hamilton Lashley, honestly, you know, because to got a mindset to think about a tournament, a Caribbean tournament for hotspot people, poor people, you know, it's very nice, and I appreciate it. Me and these guys have become very good friends now.
Exactly.
He's actually my best friend now, in a way.
And from beginning, from jump. 2014 was December in Barbados, 2015 Trinidad, 2016 Guyana, 2017 St. Vincent, 2018 St. Lucia, 2019 Grenada, and because of the pandemic for the last 3 years now, this would have been our 10th year.
Wow.
But this is the 7th year of actually realizing the tournament to the fullest. And again, Mr. Hamilton Lashley inspired me personally, being a former national player, also a former member of the Defense Force. So you know what I mean, passionate about this thing and seeing what it has done for my community in Mova Lavantel. And right now, that is the heartbeat then.
And he was a police officer as well.
So it's dealing with issues that is burning here, and you're seeing we have the solutions, except we don't have the economics to deal with these tangibles here. You know, so the socio-economic development is what we're looking at right now, to get the youths and them with equipment. And when the American embassy came on board, and my players now, they jump from here to here in a matter of weeks. And because everybody have a boots and balls, and now it's, then everybody able now to go through. And so we having an enlightenment, so to speak. And this tournament here now, we were trying to come, and the airfare crash we program. The children's arc, right? The children's arc with Ms. Labastide, and they came on board with us and assisted us because of the articles I did.
Yes.
Because I've been like a voice crying in the wilderness all these years, and they came on board. And when they came and saw that our situation was, they still unable, saying that it is extremely difficult for them to sponsor 25 people at that price.
Yeah.
So I appreciate Mr. Hamilton and Lashley for listening to the cry that I came to him in 2013 and in 2014 when everything, it was Christmas, and we came up and we had a good time here, and this thing blasts off, and so we're looking for, through the mercy of the Most High God.
We didn't miss a trip yet.
Right, and we have and this is, I have been traveling, and again as a member of the committee from Trinidad as on board, I am the person representing, because like I said, Mr. Hamilton and Lashley heard the cry in 2013 and 14. We started this thing, and we're here this time. Again, I want to thank this company here for bringing us here on board to voice, because in Trinidad.
Well, you can't get on TV. I'm going to have to make some calls for you. Final words, Mr. Ford.
We got, the Argentina government is on board too.
Okay.
Venezuela government is on board too. And that show how we going, because we have to go to the embassy here, and they give us balls, different little things to go. They're planning to get teams to come into the tournament.
It's about the reach.
Yeah. But I remember in Ghana, at the time the president was Mr. David Granger.
Yeah.
And then it went to him. He said, no, I got to open this tournament. So he opened it himself,
So he said yes.
Yes.
But I told me he said no. He was waiting. Why did he say no? He said yes.
Yes. And not only said yes, he made sure he prepared.
That he was a part of it.
And he come and
all right. So we have to work a little more together. That's all that says.
Right,
we have to work a little more in tandem. Sometimes I heard you talking about a voice in the wilderness. Sometimes we, based on experience, we come into situations with certain expectations. So maybe we don't involve some people, and maybe it's time to take a step back and look at how we can involve different people so that we kind of repollinate things and spread it a little bit more. Because this is the first time I've heard about all of this and this travel. And like I told you, I'm very involved in community activities, and I've been a member of the media for a number of years, as you would know, Mr. Ford. So for me to be just hearing about this, it says a great deal too. So let's work together, guys.
Yes. Because we bring
you gave me a pick.
We are together. The happier we shall be.
Mr. Charde Desir, who left us but still is here. Of course, Ivan Ford, representing for Barbados. Nevik Danoon, Lincoln Augustus of Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you so much. Truly appreciated this conversation. And I think it was a wonderful conversation starter. But more importantly, I think it was a good eye-opener. And I think you'll see a lot more people interested and involved. Ivan, you can't say nothing else. I got to wrap up.
All I'm doing is, we had the IV this morning, and we asked the public
to come out.
You can come and support the case.
For sure. Once I get off here, I'll come down.
Under 13s, under 15s, and under 17s.
I love it. Under 13s, under 15s, under 17s from Trinidad, from St. Lucie.
St. Lucia.
Blenheim and Dover.
Dover at night.
Dover at night, Blenheim in the day. All right, good stuff. All right, we're going to take a break here. So some food for thought for you guys as you go through the day today. Sport as a change agent for Caribbean youth. Full stop. It's a good idea. Okay, we'll be back with more. Stay with us.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
We enjoy a game of dominoes and singing karaoke.
I just love crew.
When you love me just a little bit longer.
You
get to relax and have a drink and listen to some nice music.
It's something different. It's spectacular. It's fabulous. You know, it's a different feeling altogether.
Follow me to Q in the Community this Thursday.
You know why?
Cometh the hour, cometh the Ugandan. Holloway defends his title. Glorious goal to Shelley Ann Fraser-Price.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
All right, so still talking behind the scenes and enjoying the company because it was rich conversation. You know how it goes with rich conversation. So I told you a few weeks ago we had a wonderful conversation, a segment that discussed fair dismissal under the Employment Rights Act. And in that particular segment, we spoke with the Regional Head of Employment and Labor with Dentons and Christian Rock, who is a Labor Management and Industrial Relations Chair with the Human Resources Management Association. So they looked at what's fair and unfair when it comes to dismissal under the Employment Rights Act, how employees can be fairly dismissed for things like poor performance, and how you can shape yourself up generally as an employee. And they also looked at if you can dismiss an employee who has mental health issues, and that was one of the main things that we of course looked at. That's one of the areas we've been honing in on a lot on Morning Barbados, given the climate in Barbados and all that has been happening, not only here but across the region and the world. So let's take a look back at that discussion and share it with you. If you're seeing it again, watch a little more closely, listen in. If you haven't seen it as yet, listen out. Tell us, what is fair versus unfair dismissal under the Employment Rights Act?
So what the Employment Rights Act aimed to do was to introduce the concept of procedural fairness. It had already kind of been on the landscape by virtue of the action of the trade unions in terms of collective bargaining and putting in stipulations in place so that if employees are to be terminated for misconduct or poor performance, they had the opportunity to kind of give their side of the story before the employer made a decision. So the Employment Rights Act essentially standardized that process, introduced a number of other collateral rights of employees, fixing minimum terms of notice for dismissal, and particularly requiring that an employer give a specific reason before dismissing an employee. And that reason has to be a fair reason. As I said, competence and conduct tend to be the most common reasons, but other reasons include pressure from third parties, for example, customers who have an issue with the employee in question, so that there are business implications for maintaining the employment and so on. So essentially, a fair dismissal is one which is for a fair reason and follows the process in the Act, and an unfair dismissal is to dismiss an employee under any of the circumstances, to put it in a nutshell.
All right, so that's a big nutshell. Yeah, because there's so many areas that we can really delve into. So let's pick one in particular, something like poor performance. You have someone in your employ and you feel like they're not performing. How can you fairly dismiss someone for poor performance under the ERA? And we're going to toss that to you, Christian.
Hey, good morning. So first, you need to do a performance assessment. Most persons call it a performance appraisal. Most companies have a performance management system which will guide how the performance assessment or the performance appraisal is supposed to be done. And then in terms of the appeal process, if you're not comfortable with that, then you would go through the appeal process to appeal the decision of the performance appraisal. To have an employee fairly dismissed for poor performance, you first have to put the person on what we call PAP, Performance Improvement Plan. Should the person improve their performance, then it's going to be very difficult to dismiss the person, because the fourth schedule says that you have to give the person time to correct their behavior. And if the person did correct their behavior, then there's no real and true reason for the dismissal. So then it could be considered unfair dismissal. And we could look at the case Joe Leacock versus PMM Services Limited. That was a case before the tribunal in 2015, which was mainly based on performance standards.
All right, so let's delve into that a little bit more before you move off of that. So basically, so people know in clear terms, you have to first not only show where they're falling short, but also show that you're giving them an opportunity to improve.
Yes, you do. The fourth schedule calls for what we call incremental punishment. So it says that the oral or written warning should be used first, just before the dismissal is considered. Should the employer want to dismiss the person for poor performance, then it will have to go to the modified section of the fourth schedule, which we would then consider summary dismissal. So there are avenues, but it's one where the employer has to prove without a shadow of a doubt that this dismissal of this person is warranted, and they have to show that they have put things in place to make sure there are corrective actions.
All right, very, very, very important. And I've never thought about it that way. I suppose I maybe knew that, but I've never thought about it that way, because usually when we think of employers pointing to poor performance, we don't think that they need to put a performance improvement plan in place to be able to help their employees. Now, in some instances, we know there are certain contributing factors that could lead to people's poor performance. And I would imagine that, you know, things are considered maybe on an individual basis and based on what you're having, especially since you have to go through a tribunal if you get to that place, if you feel like you're unfairly dismissed or what have you. But what about if, you know, it's something major like a mental health issue? Can that, you know, stand on its own for an employer moving to, you know, dismiss an employee? Michael?
So mental health impacts the process in a number of ways. The first thing I would say is that unless the particular illness or disorder that the person is suffering from, whether temporary or permanent, is directly preventing them from performing their job, then you cannot dismiss the employee by reason only that they're suffering from that mental illness. And mental illness spans a number of circumstances. It could be that the employee is dealing with bereavement, for example, so this is a temporary situation, as opposed to an employee who has a long-term illness such as schizophrenia or chronic depression, where it amounts to a disability. And where an employee has a disability, an employer has a collateral obligation to try to put such provisions in place as possible to try to enable the employee to perform their function. So if that is time off for the employee to seek treatment, if it is a reallocation of tasks within the organization to allow the employee to be able to perform their function in a different way, all those things have to be considered. But if, having regard to the resources of the organization, all reasonable steps have been taken to try to accommodate the employee, in the case of the disability affecting their performance, as Christian said, they've been given the opportunity to improve, then at that stage, the employer can consider dismissing that employee.
I know under the law we see that word a great deal, and it is often confusing because it really changes as you move from person to person. Reasonableness. So since we're in an era where mental health is so major, kind of lay that out for us a little bit more. What would you consider, or what would be considered to be reasonable in an instance where you have an employee who's having mental health challenges, maybe for the reasons you exposed, you shared just now, or for other reasons? What would be considered reasonable in trying to get them to a good place before you can fairly dismiss them under the Employment Rights Act?
So reasonableness kind of underpins the Act altogether, as the Act tries to balance the rights of the employee versus the needs of the employer. So reasonableness is essentially a common sense question, and what is reasonable will vary from situation to situation and workplace to workplace. So if a reasonable employer in the position of that employee would dismiss or impose discipline or whatever the case is, then that would be considered reasonable for the purposes of the Act. So the question is whether, say, we have a school and it is a teacher in question who's the employee who has been subject to discipline for poor performance, perhaps. The question would be whether it would be reasonable, having regard to what avenues there are available to the school to change the teacher's schedule or whatever the case might be to accommodate their mental health issue. That is what would be reasonable. And the situation might be very different for a different kind of employment, which did not require, for example, dealing with children and needing to be present in that more direct way. So reasonableness is necessarily an elastic concept, and the onus is not as heavy on employers as may commonly be perceived, because the question of what is reasonable is viewed from the point of view of the employer, faced with a number of options which are all reasonable, from perhaps the most drastic to the most lenient. Anywhere within that ambit that an employer decides to move would satisfy the requirements of the Act.
All right, we usually see some new terms cropping up when we talk about employees and employment. And at one point in time, we were talking a lot about things like presenteeism in Barbados, where I suppose people felt like that meant people were there, but not necessarily doing what they were supposed to do. So what do you do in the instance where you have employees who are, doing at basic what they're supposed to do, but they're not necessarily contributing to the greater good of the company or moving the company forward? Is there a recourse then for employers to be able to move on even something like that, or does it come back strictly to your assessment system, whatever that is that you're using in your business? To you, Christian.
So one of the important things about assessment is that it is a collaboration between both the employee and the employer, and both agree on the benchmarks that they intend to reach, whether it be within the next 6 months or within the annual appraisal system. There are some companies that do what we call a semi-annual review. So they do 2 reviews within a year. And basically you would know that within that first review, the person is not performing. And then that is where you would in turn put the person on a PAP. Presenteeism is one of those things that is very hard to subjectively measure unless you have a clear and precise performance appraisal system in place. So the document in itself, the performance management system, will outline all the areas for improvement and all the areas where the employee will contribute to the strategic business objectives. And therefore, if the person is not meeting those objectives, then it will be outlined in the performance appraisal, and in turn, you will go the route of the performance improvement plan.
All right, and to you, Michael, my question is, when we even talk about, before we get to the performance appraisal, there's so many businesses that do not have a performance appraisal system in place in any form. So let's talk about the importance of having an appraisal system in place to any business, so that you are indeed developing your employees, but you are moving your business forward as well.
Yeah, so the practicality will kind of vary from situation to situation. The Employment Rights Act captures basically all instances of employment. So if the organization is only 3 people, it applies just as well as if you're dealing with a bank. Performance appraisals obviously put the employer in the best position in terms of being able to establish where the employee falls in terms of what is expected, but it's not a legal requirement. What might be perhaps more critical as a base level would be for the employer to document those circumstances where the employee falls short of what has been required, so that in moving towards the dismissal for poor performance, or indeed any form of discipline in relation to performance, the employer can look to a track record to show that the employee was made aware of where they were falling down, failing to meet the mark, and given a reasonable opportunity to improve. As well as that the employee, further to what I had said earlier, was given an opportunity once a definitive position was taken that that employee is likely guilty of poor performance, to give their side of the story and allow the employer to consider factors that they might not have been aware of. Circumstances coming to bear on the employee outside of the workplace, the same mental health issue, for example, which might make it unreasonable for the employer to dismiss without attempting to make adjustments to allow the employee to better their performance, etc.
All right. So on a more personal note, do they tell you at HERMAB that you have to keep a straight face, that you're not allowed to smile? Because if I had to come in, if I had to come into any of your offices, I might be a little nervous if I was the type of girl to get nervous. You know, I'm just kidding. Yeah, but you know, I totally get it. We're dealing with some pretty heavy topics, especially when you're talking about dismissal. It can be really, really touchy how people deal with it. But I think we're hearing more and more now that people understand you can't just send somebody home these days, because you heard about that a lot in the past. So from each of you gentlemen, one final reminder that you'd like both employees and maybe employers to go away with when they're thinking about the Employment Rights Act and where it concerns fair dismissal.
I would say that the key consideration is that the act is simply requiring you to be fair. There's no need to be afraid of falling afoul of the act if you're doing everything that logic and common sense would dictate you ought to do to try to maintain the relationship. What the act is basically trying to ensure is that if the relationship has to come to an end, it's not because the parties haven't done everything reasonably available to them to preserve it. So if it's performance, you've given them the opportunity to improve. If it is conduct, you've pointed to the employee, well, this won't do, so desist from doing this. Here is a warning letting you know that if you don't improve your performance within 12 months, we could be having a different kind of conversation. So that spirit of reasonableness, fairness is all that the act is trying to put in place. And once an employer is meeting those markers, they are highly unlikely to fall afoul of the act.
All right, Mr. Rock.
Yeah, I think the legislation is a brilliant piece of legislation. You would hear a lot of commentators say that it favors the employee. It does call for the employer to be more particular in what they document, how they document, and how they go about dealing with employees on a more human aspect. So I think that my final words would be just to ensure that you cross your T's and dot your I's. So to ensure that if the matter does reach the tribunal, the employer would be seen as one that is favorable, one that has done all within their remit to make sure that the employee contributes fairly to the company, and therefore the dismissal would then be seen as fair in the eyes of the tribunal.
Very, very interesting discussion. We certainly hope that you enjoyed that discussion and shared a lot more information with you about the EPA. We're going to take another break on Morning Barbados and come back with more. Stay with us.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Cometh the hour, cometh the Ugandan. Holloway defends his title. Glorious goal to Shelley-Ann Fraser-Price. With the heart of an American lion, Lyles has roared back to the top. 2 world records in one night. We're watching a once-in-a-generation athlete. The practice, is it on? Oh, that's ridiculous.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Hey, 24 minutes now before 8 o'clock on Morning Barbados, so we've had a good mix of a little chat. We looked back. Now it's time to talk to someone else who's joined me on the set. Good morning to you, Kamisha King. She's a visionary strategist and life purpose coach, and she's joining us this morning to talk a little bit about 7 days of intimacy challenge, right? Self-love, rediscovering you. And it all started with you writing this book. It's called 7 Dates of Intimacy. You've brought the book, so
Yes.
let's kind of share it. So tell me about, what made you write this book, Miss Kamisha King.
Definitely. So good morning, Barbados, and thank you so much for having me. The book 7 Days of Intimacy started because of my own personal journey. I would have been in 2016. I remember having this conversation with God, saying to him, I want my husband and I want to know where he is and why he's taking so long. And, God spoke to me and said, take your date self on 7 days of intimacy. And in that process, I didn't quite understand 7 days of intimacy because I never heard the term before, but I was obedient and I started to take myself on intentional dates. So through these dates, what I was doing was I was actually noting and journaling my whole process. I remember I went to the movies on my own. I went to dinner on my own. I went sightseeing on my own. I did a lot of fun stuff on my own. And from that process, I recognized a lot of stuff about myself. And it showed me that I was not ready for marriage so I thought. And then shortly after that, I got the nudge to write this book. Because after the experiences that I was able to capture from that, I said, oh no, I can't keep this to myself. There's so many other sisters out there who need to be able to have this opportunity to reflect and see themselves as well.
What did you find? I'm sure you reveal it within the pages of the book, but just generally for us, on this journey of self-discovery or self-recovery, as it could be deemed, generally, what did you find?
I found out about myself that I had a lot of insecurities. I was looking for validation from others. I felt like if no one told me that I was doing a good job, I felt like I wasn't doing a good job. I also recognized that there were a lot of past hurts from relationships that I did not let go. I didn't forgive. There were people. There was this one person actually that I did not forgive, and because of that person, it was kind of holding myself hostage in a prison. And when I recognized that, I realized, oh my goodness, I would not have been able to accept the husband should he had shown up, or even not even be able to spot him because I was already dealing with that stuff.
Wow, interesting stuff. So let's get between the pages. How long did it take you to be able to get it all down on paper and determine, okay, I'm going to publish this, I'm going to share this information?
It took me about 3 weeks to complete.
Only 3 weeks?
Yes.
Wow.
Because it's in a journal format and it's very intentional, but it's a book that you have to be honest. You can't do it unless you're willing to be honest, because it's going to get very intimate. The questions it will answer, we're talking about insecurities, we're talking about unforgiveness, we're talking about trust issues in it. We're showing persons, how to actually take themselves on dates. And after every date, you are journaling your process. The questions that we're asking you about yourself, do you really love yourself? Do you things like that? So when that came to me and I wrote that book in those 3 weeks, because it was already in me, that's what made it so easy to write. Because originally I was not going to write this book. I was planning to write another book, but in that moment I said, you know what, I don't want to be selfish. I want to share it with others, give them an opportunity to experience what I did.
Now, from August 28th through September 3rd, you're encouraging people out here to embark on this journey. Tell us more.
Definitely. So from August 28th, we are going to be having it online. It's going to be through our private group on Facebook. And with that, what we're doing for 1 hour, we're meeting and we're actually going through different steps. It's all tailored to the book. You don't have to have a book in order to be a part of it. You can still be a part of it. It's better for you if you do, because of the different activities that you will do, but it wouldn't stop you from doing it. So each night we're going to be addressing different issues, like for example, the unforgiveness, insecurities, learning to love yourself, identifying who you are. We're going to be dealing with those types of subjects as well. And through that process, we'll have like different activities, we'll do different breakout rooms and so on. Make it interesting, and then you'll have homework. But this homework is fun homework, of course. This homework is just for you to take yourself on a date and for you to have that experience and journal the process.
Oh, that sounds really, really interesting. You said it's a closed group.
Yes.
So talk to us about what we need to do to be a part of it.
It's pretty simple. So what you do, you go to our website at www.queensmindset.net, and once you click the link to register, you'll get an email, and the email will give you the information for the link to join the YouTube, to join the Facebook private group.
Yeah.
So you can be a part of this. But we're going to be streaming through Zoom, so that allows us to do the breakout rooms and so on. And you can be a part of the group, or you can just go on Facebook, just search for Queen's Mindset Community, and you'll find us, and just click the link. And we'll
Is there any particular reason why it's private?
Yes, because we wanted to give the ladies an opportunity to share. So in the event that anyone wants to share anything that's intimate about themselves, because it's a sisterhood, and we want them to be able to share stuff there. So anything you want to talk about, we share there. We have trainings once every month. We do trainings on various stuff, so business. And next month we're going to be looking at something very, very interesting for them. This month we're focusing on the challenge. So every month they have something going on in that group.
Oh, that's wonderful stuff. What has the response been like from women generally? I think women often are more drawn to things like this than guys, but admittedly, you need both to be interested and involved.
Yes. So the response thus far, it has been good. We've had a lot of women, when they first heard it, they kept saying, what is it? What is 7 days of intimacy? What does that mean? And I love that question, because when I'm finished explaining it to them, they go like, oh, I didn't thought it was that, because I thought at first it was just a simple, you go and come back. They didn't understand, and they're loving it. I've gotten really good feedback from it. We had a boot camp, and I remember with this boot camp we had various ages. So we had a lady in her 60s, we had someone in their 40s, someone in their 30s, and someone in their late 20s, and they have all come back to say, oh my goodness, I never knew that I needed this. I never knew that I was dealing with all of this stuff. So they have really been enjoying it.
Yeah, I like the idea of going on a date by yourself. There's some people who don't appreciate or don't like being alone.
That's true.
I'm not one of those people. I like to, enjoy my company sometimes. You might find Paternity Court on the TV.
Yes.
For some reason, I'm going through that phase. No judgment, please. But, definitely, some people, you might go on a date and figure out that you don't like your date on the partner. So, it's a great way to engage in self-reflection and things like that. So it's a 7-day challenge, and again it's August 28th to September 3rd, 7 to 8 o'clock every evening.
Yes.
And I think it will be interesting. You're also going to have a question and answer segment, like you said, some workout, some working groups, some interactive sessions involved. So it sounds like something that you should definitely get involved with. Queen's Mindset, you mentioned that a few times. What is Queen's Mindset?
So Queen's Mindset is a women's empowerment organization. It was created in 2017. And at Queen's Mindset, what we do is that we help women to birth their visions and walk in their purpose. And our focus is really about just helping women to kind of identify and discover themselves and get to the place where they need to be.
All right, that's excellent stuff. Good work.
Yes, thank
you also have an online magazine, a digital magazine. Talk to us a little bit more about that.
So our magazine, which started in 2022, our first edition was for Women's International Day in 2022, March 2022. This year we had one for Mother's Day, where we highlighted mothers, from all walks of life, helped them to tell their story about their various journeys that they would have encountered. So we had mothers in ministry, mothers in teaching, in education, different things like that we would have had them in. And out of that, we also was able to partner with a company which is called Press Reader. So Press Reader is a digital company, and that digital company actually gave us the opportunity to expand. So what do I mean by that? It means now you can actually download our magazines when you are actually from the app itself. You can also view it on airlines. So we're across like British Airways, JetBlue, and various other airways that I've never been on before. There are cruise ships as well that you can also see it there too as well. There's in libraries and institutions, in hotels and stuff like Fairmont and those. So we have been able to now reach over over 10 million viewers from having this partnership with this with the app, which is called Press Reader, and they're located in Vancouver, Canada.
Oh, that's excellent. What are you hoping for in moving forward with this 7 Dates of Intimacy project?
Oh, I am hoping that at the end of this project, I can have, just like last year, have women come to me and say, my life has been transformed because I was able to be a part of this. I'm looking to have women say, you know, I've discovered some things about myself that I need to work on so that I can get to the next level. And now I understand why this was not happening. So I'm looking for clarity for them. I'm looking for them to be able to reflect and identify and then be able to associate so that they can assume the positions and the roles that they've been called to. So I'm really looking out of this whole aspect for them to get healing.
Oh, that's excellent. It's wonderful that you've kind of committed your entire purpose to working with women. And, you know, I'm going to ask you a bit of a personal question now. How has the book, the therapy that came with writing the book, the journey that you came through to be able to realize what you found in the book, how has that changed your personal life?
It has definitely changed it, because every time, because for some people, they may come and they may do this like one time. For me, I'm doing it like 3, 4, 5 times a year because I'm always sharing with other persons. And funny enough, every time I do it, I discover something new about myself, because you're growing, you know, you're evolving as you go. So it has really been a very introspective time for me, because every stage I see, okay, Kamisha, we need to work on this, or we have graduated from that, which is a good thing, right? Yes. So I've really been be able to map my progress.
Good stuff. Where can we get your book?
So you can actually purchase a copy directly from me. You can actually contact me at 258-3544, or you can go directly to Cloister Bookstore. Our copies are there too as well. If you're viewing us from overseas, you can actually go to Amazon.com and you can purchase a copy there.
Oh, that's excellent. You know, it's been wonderful having you in, strategist and life purpose coach. That's very interesting, helping people to discover their life's purpose. Yes. All right, good stuff. So make sure that you are part of this 7 Days of Intimacy challenge. It's 7 days, August 28th to September 3rd, 7 to 8 o'clock every night. You must go to the website first, though, to be able to get the link you need to move on to that Facebook page and sign up to be a part of it. So I want to thank you so much for coming in and sharing with us, and I wish you the very best. Be sure to tell us how it goes.
Definitely.
Who knows, I might sign up myself.
We'll love to have you.
All right, good stuff. All right, we're going to take a break and come on back here on Morning Barbados. Stay with us.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
All right, so welcome back. So this morning, the Carifta team is heading off. That's right, the Carifta triathlon, aquathlon, and mixed relay team from Barbados. They're leaving to head off to Bahamas. Of course, the championship runs August 26th and 27th, and the team managers, Carrie Banfield and Garth McIntyre, will lead a contingent of 24 athletes with aspirations of bringing home team gold for the second consecutive Carifta Championships. Now, team captains Isis Gaskin and Finn Armstrong were here yesterday morning sharing with us. And at the 2022 Carifta Championships that was held in Bahamas last year, a 13-member Barbados team had a total point score of 145, 8 golds for a total of 15 medals, comfortably beating hosts Bermuda of their team of 45 members, who finished second with 4 goals and 13 medals overall. Now, this year, with a much bigger squad, almost double the squad, mixed with youth and a good mixture of experience as well, Barbados is ready for the challenge again. So we want to wish you all the very best as you head off, pictured left to right. We see over there on the left, we have Isis. You'd recognize her. She is team captain there. Of course, she's co-captain. But the girls are Alexis Lashley, Jahara Lane, Kane Banfield, Zara Gaskin, Aidan Lifcock. They separated them there. But the rest of the team, Matthew Lashley, Ali Banfield, Liam Beckles, Luke McIntyre. We told you that Isis was in one of those photos already. Haley Banfield, Finn Armstrong, Zinzali, Renwick Williams, Nia Duglin, Kayla Renwick, Daniel Lashley, I think I said that name already, Janae Johnson, Asia Innes, Zach Gill, Layla McIntyre, Victory Bourne, Judah Hall Fox, Isabella Mears, Matthew Briggs Legal, Eric Lashley. Hey, we wish you guys great success. You definitely have this. So look forward to bringing home all those medals. I know you're going to do well. So all the best as you go off to represent Barbados. Now, we said there was going to be a heavy focus on sports today. Absolutely. So we know that Sha'Carri Richardson said she was always a champion. And, based on what was happening with her life a few months ago, she was kind of thrust into the spotlight for all the wrong reasons. Now she's back in a big way. And in her debut back at the Track and Fields World's Athletic Championships in Budapest, Hungary on Monday, she took home the 100-meter gold. The time was a world championship record and a personal best for her. She's only 23 years old. Now, Jamaican legend Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price was third, and Jamaican Sharika Jackson was second. The Jamaican and American rivalry is alive and well in the women's 100, as we would know. So the top 3 finishers haven't always gotten along over the years, but it was nothing but respect after the final as they posed for photos and embraced each other after the race. That was wonderful to see. There was also a clip that was captured by international media where Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price was kind of nudging her a little bit. And now we have, 2 videos that are kind of making waves on social media with the trio. In the first one, Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price whispers a little something to her about how long it has been since the USA has been able to capture a gold medal. Yeah, so the pocket rocket was, in high spirits and being nice. And she said, you know how long it has been since America got a gold medal in the women's 100? And Sha'Carri told her it's because of you. It's true. And then in the next video, she speaks about watching Shelly-Ann as a child growing up. And, they laughed teasingly about, how she felt about Shelly-Ann. So let's take a look at that as well.
I understand your question, but I think you asked me about Miss Shelly, and I just want to say she's an amazing athlete. I grew up watching her, knowing that. Seriously, just in that, like, but just.
No, you're good.
But just knowing that it's a great. It honestly was gonna take literally my best to come forward and be able to compete. Knowing that she's been doing this and can continue to be on the podium every single time shows me that I have a journey. I have something to do. I have more to do. Like she said, what makes this sport or what makes this so fun or interesting is the fact that you can always do more. There's always so much more that you can pull out of yourself and become better. So, yeah.
Last question, sir. Yeah. Jonathan Gold here from Let'sRun.com.
All right, so good stuff. So we're definitely looking forward to all that the championship has to offer. But most importantly, we can't wait to see Sade Williams perform in the final that's coming up this afternoon. Yes, and of course this is a congratulatory message for the Ministry of Youth, Sport and Community Empowerment, extending best wishes to Sade for the women's 400 meters final that's coming off later today. So make sure you tune in around 3:35 local time in support of Sade. She's going to be competing in lane 8 at the World Athletic Championship in Budapest in Hungary. All right, so let's support our girl if you can. I know some people have left home already, but if you can, put on your national colors. I most certainly have a t-shirt that I'm going to change off into when I go upstairs so that I can represent as well. And I have to say a special good morning to my neighbors in the newsroom upstairs, because usually when there are races and stuff like this going on, they're the loudest room in the building, and with good cause. So we want to thank you for joining us here on Morning Barbados. Coming up on tomorrow's show, a contingent from the Barbados Boy Scout Association recently got back from the 25th World Scouts Jamboree in South Korea. So what an adventure that was. You know, the team, they're back and they're going to tell us all their stories tomorrow. And we continue our chat with Margaret Grant on transitioning from primary to secondary school. That's been very, very interesting. Plus the Community Independent Celebration Secretariat's promotion of the parish talent shows continues. And they're going to be in to tell us all about the Northern Zone. Anderson Rollock is going to be here with us. All that and so much more on tomorrow's presentation of Morning Barbados. As you go through the day, remember to wear your smile. Have a good one and come on back tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up. Good morning.